order. This is Steve Meyer. I'm sorry unfortunately or fortunately, maybe you can't see me because I don't have a camera here at my location. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. Appreciate your taking the time out of your day to be with us in this meeting, which is, first time, I guess, for all of us for this board. Maybe you've had other types of meetings similar, but my first time to chair. Certainly, I've been listening in various meetings, but not chaired one. So this is my first time chairing it, and I appreciate your patience and those, certainly the board members, and also those who are appearing before our board today. Again, this is the first time we're all experiencing this. At this time, I'm going to ask that the roll will be taken. And Sarah's going to take the roll. If you would, Sarah, please.
I will do it. Thank you, Chairman Meyer. Mr. Bobby Perry.
Present.
Mr. Dick Brown.
Here.
Dr. Isaac Aday. Not present. Ms. Shia Hendricks. Miss Becky Sharp.
Here. She may be on mute.
Perfect. And then Mr. Chris Moth.
Here.
Perfect. So the Health and Education, the Health and Educational Facilities Board of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee will be held in accordance with Executive Order number 16, signed by Governor Bill Lee on March 20th, 2020. As extended by Executive Order number 34, signed by Governor Bill Lee on May 6, 2020, allowing governing bodies to hold meetings by electronic or other means of communication without a quorum being physically present if the governing body determines that the meeting by electronic means is necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19 or any other relative epidemics to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public and members of the governing body. All votes taken during this meeting will be by a roll call vote.
Thank you, Sarah. We normally sign a waiver and public notice. We, of course, cannot sign it, although one was forwarded to us earlier and asked to acknowledge that by sending back an email. Sarah, can you report that has that been received by at least all those present?
Yes. It has been returned by Mr. Meyer, Mr. Bobby Perry, Becky Sharp, and Chris Moth.
Okay. Dick Brown, did you get yours?
I guess not.
Okay.
I am delinquent. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, he can submit that at a later date. Is that right?
Yeah, I will follow up with everyone after the meeting.
Right. Okay. Very good. Okay, so our first order of business is consideration of minutes from our January 30th meeting of this year. Those minutes were mailed to us, and I presume everyone had a chance to look them over. Are there anybody see any corrections or any additions that need to be made to these minutes? I'm not seeing anyone or hearing anyone speak. Can someone wish to make a motion that these minutes be approved as presented?
So moved.
And that would be Becky?
Becky Sharp.
Okay, Becky Sharp moves approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Bobby. Okay, Bobby Perry seconds the minutes be approved. Any further discussion about the minutes? Okay, if not, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll take a roll. I guess excuse me. Take a roll.
Got to do roll call every time.
Right. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Chairman Meyer, do you approve of the minutes?
Yes.
Mr. Perry seconded the motion, so he approves. Mr. Dick Brown, do you approve of the minutes?
Yes.
Dr. Isaac Aday, do you approve of the minutes?
Yes.
Ms. Shia Hendricks, do you approve of the minutes?
Yes.
Becky Sharp first the motion, so she approved. Mr. Moth, do you approve of the minutes?
I was not here, so I have to abstain. I think it would be a little more in order if the chair were the last person asked on these roll call votes. Thank you.
Okay.
Altogether appropriate. And so I take it from the responses there, we have all 7 members in the meeting. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Sarah? Okay. Very good. Okay. Okay, so the next order of business is a presentation from Richland Hills Housing Partners. Sorry, I don't have the amount they're asking for. I'm sure you've all seen it. I'm just looking at one piece of paper that doesn't have that on there, but this is up to, let's see, $30 million in bonds. And so our speaker, I think, presentation we're going to hear from is Brooke Shorett. Brooke, are you available?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hopefully everyone can. Go ahead.
Great. Hi, I'm Brooke Charette. I'm a development director with Vitus. We're a national affordable housing developer based out of Seattle, Washington. We've developed over 100 properties over about 26 states now. And we primarily focus on acquisition rehab. So we buy existing buildings and complete extensive renovations through the 4% tax credit program. And that's exactly what we intend to do here. Richland Hills is 201 units. It's a multifamily apartment complex in West Nashville, sort of near the Sylvan Park neighborhood. It's a mix of 2, 3, and 4 bedroom apartments. The majority are 2 bedrooms, and families are the primary occupants. 60% of the units are covered by a Section 8 HAP contract, which we will renew and extend for an additional 20 years at the tax credit close. And the market units that are currently there will have income restrictions put on them as well. We intend to acquire the real estate this coming August, and then hopefully receive an allocation of volume cap for a spring 2021 close, or as soon as we can close with THDA. The property itself was built in 1970, and it actually had a moderate rehab done in 2016, but it primarily focused on the market rate unit. So we're planning to come in and do about $30,000 a unit, or about $6 million in total of rehab, and get those Section 8 units kind of up to market standards, as well as fixing some general capital needs across the property that weren't done at that time. So that includes things such as new roofing across the board, gutters and downspouts, sidewalk and parking lot repairs, entry doors, exterior lighting, and then on a unit by unit basis, depending on what's been done or what was done in 2016, we'll do new flooring, doors, window treatments, appliances, and then kitchen and bathroom countertops and fixtures. In addition, we'll convert 11 of the units to be ADA compliant, and I think that's 5%, and then 2% to be hearing and sensory compliant. We do have experience in Tennessee, so we actually just finished up a big renovation in downtown Chattanooga. We haven't had the good fortune to do anything in Nashville yet, so we're hopeful that we can move forward with this project and hopefully complete a tax credit rehab here next year. So that's really all I have. With that said, thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
All right. I think first, before we take questions from the board, I'm going to conduct the public hearing and see if there's anyone present. So I'm going to open the public hearing to ask if there's anyone here in the meeting wishing to speak for or against this project. Have we been notified of anybody present to wish to speak either way?
I have not been contacted by anyone, and in the notice we requested anyone to either
give us
comments or contact me 24 hours before the hearing, and up until this moment I have not been contacted.
Okay, in that case I'm going to close the public hearing, having not had anyone contact us or indicate by trying to appear at this meeting that they wish to speak for or against the project. And therefore, then I'll open the floor to questions from members of the board who will just state your name and questions. We can go through the roll, or you can just speak up.
This is Dick Brown. I'll just speak up. My question, Brooke, is you've got an existing HAP contract on a portion of the project now. Is it the intent to maintain that?
Yes, we will maintain the existing Section 8 HAP contract. We'll renew it for another 20 years at the time of closing. So it would go to at least 2041, if not longer.
Okay, thank you.
Brooke, this is Steve Meyer. Did you say there were renovations done a few years ago?
Yes, in 2016, they did, the current owner did a rehab to probably like 50% of the units, or I guess mostly for the market rate units. They did all of the flooring, cabinetry, and new appliances. They did some rehab to the Section 8 units, like they did new flooring, but then they did cabinetry and appliances on a unit by unit basis. So we don't intend to get rid of anything that's perfectly good, obviously, but there's a lot of the Section 8 units that are not in great shape and just weren't done at that time for financial reasons. So we just come back and do those and do an additional property.
And did you say something about a 5 or 6 year period, or how long do you expect to have this renovations take?
Oh no, the renovation should take probably anywhere between 8 to 12 months from when we close on the tax credits. So probably we're looking at closing sometime around this time next year, and we would expect to be done by March or April of 2022.
Further question?
Brooke, this is Shia Hendricks. I have a quick question for you. How are the units that are going to be rehabbed, are they currently occupied? If I've missed that in your opening, you could just clarify that for me. And if they are occupied, what's the plan to address that?
Yes, that's a great question. They are, the property is fully occupied. There might be 3 or 4 or 5 vacant units, but yeah, for the most part, it is occupied. So this will be an in-place rehab. Aside from the conversion of those units that will be converted to ADA compliant, those units, residents will need to move to extended stay hotels for probably about 3 weeks. We handle all of that and pay for all of that. But I guess in light of the COVID-19 guidelines and things like that, we've been developing practices with our contractor to make sure that any in-place rehab is done in accordance with CDC protocol. And obviously, right now it's super sensitive. So any work we're doing right now is, voluntary, and residents can agree to do it now if they're comfortable with that. And of course, social distancing would be part of that, staying 6 feet away, wearing proper masks and gloves and whatnot. Since this one isn't planned until this time next year, knock on wood, this won't be as big of an issue at that time. I have a feeling a lot of the CDC protocol that will be put into effect now will just be incorporated into our overall in-place rehab guidelines, just for good practice going forward. So I can send some more information on how we intend to do that. I don't have all of the specifics, but we would have a vacant unit that would be kind of converted into a hospitality suite where residents could go during the day while the contractors are in their unit, so they don't have to be in such close proximity if they should choose to do so. Otherwise, other safe practices will be in place so that they could stay in the units if they're comfortable doing so. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Brooke, this is Steve Meyer again. What do you know what the market rate, the rentals on the market rate units are now, and would there be any changes in those?
Yeah, let me pull that up. Currently, they're about, on average, the 2 bedrooms are just over 1,000, and 3 bedrooms are at like 1,300. We're planning over time about $100 increase on those rents, but in any one year we won't be increasing them by more than like 5%. So it's a gradual phase in, and you know, once the lease expires, we or you know, if a resident moves out, we shoot for those higher rents, but any resident that's currently occupying won't see rent increases more than 5%.
This is Dick Brown. Brooke, or maybe this is for Cindy as well, or if you've got counsel. You're just now going to THDA, so we're really just giving you the preliminary approval that you would take into your package for approval for your credit application.
That's exactly right.
And so the plan and the procedure here on this project is you would come back to us after that's put together, and you've got a marketing plan and terms on the bonds that we would be proposing to issue.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is purely our inducement so that we can acquire the property and get the acquisition of the property into our tax credit basis. We'll be still going through to get our conditional approval from THDA, which we need this inducement to do so, and then probably in the next few months, we'll start submitting our final application once the conditional application has been approved by THDA. And we'd ultimately have to come back through the board to get the final bond resolution approved. Cindy might be able to speak better to that than me, but that's essentially the gist of it.
So general question, typically do y'all do credit enhancement or some sort of agency program on the debt on the projects that you typically do under the LIHTC program?
We, I don't know if I have an answer for that. Typically, yes. On this project, we'll likely be using HUD financing. I don't know all of the details of the debt structure at this time, but yes, typically.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, not to cut off questions, but we do have a resolution that was presented in our packet. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution giving preliminary approval to this project?
So moved. Dick Brown.
Yeah, is there a second?
Second, Chris Moss.
Okay. Further questions from the board? Anybody? Okay. Not hearing anyone wishing to speak. This time we'll take a roll call of the members for voting on to approve the resolution giving preliminary approval for this up to $30 million. Sarah, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bobby Perry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Dick Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Isaac Aday, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Shia Hendricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Becky Sharp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Moth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Meyer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Perfect.
And the vote is?
It has passed.
7-0?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Brooke, and we'll look forward to seeing you back at a later date.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is the V808 at Sky Ridge, which is again another preliminary approval for, I believe this is new construction. Am I right? Or is this an acquisition? This is an acquisition also, I think. But who do we have? So we have the speaker here of Joshua Haston. Joshua, are you with us?
Yes, sir. It's Joshua Haston with LDG Development.
All right,
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay.
I think so.
Thank you. So we've actually already come to you for initial preliminary approval. This is actually just coming back for an increased amount and increasing our taxable bond amount. We hate to do this. This was unfortunately, because of the increase in construction costs that we've seen in Nashville. We initially asked for $25 million. And unfortunately, construction costs have risen, and we're now increasing our amount to $29 million that would cover our increased construction cost. This is largely due to rock on site that we're going to have to blast and carry off. Nashville is hilly, as you guys know, and it's highly unfortunate, but this project has already been submitted to THDA for a firm commitment. And we're actually already answering questions for hopefully receiving tax credits and bonds in the next couple weeks. And then assuming you move forward, then we would begin construction hopefully next month.
Okay. This is Steve Meyer. Cindy, could you give us just a little history of when we heard this before and preliminary approval was given at the lower amount? Is that correct?
Yes. This group was before the board at the December 3rd meeting for preliminary approval. And as Josh stated, they've since applied to THDA and realized their costs have gone up. And so this is an amendment to go from 25 million to 29 million in bonds through the board. Once again, it's just an amendment to their preliminary approval. So like the prior group, they'll need to come back for a final bond resolution once their financing is further along. So this is just an amendment to the preliminary.
Okay. But I understand because we're raising the amount, we do need to have a public hearing on this issue, which we,
yes,
I assume, had one initially for the project, but this is a different amount, of course. So at this time, we will hold a public hearing on the 808 at Skyline Ridge, and I'll open the meeting. I'll ask again, Cindy, has there been any contact, anyone indicated you a desire to speak?
No, I have not received any comments from anyone or any request to speak today.
Okay, so we've asked, there have been no indication of anyone desire to speak, and no one has indicated so to even today by trying to contact or join the meeting. So that being the case, so we have no one to speak, we will close the public hearing. And again, now we will open it up for questions from members of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would propose and move under the circumstances of the simplicity of this request and the previous approval that we simply approve this request as is without question or discussion if no one has anything terribly pressing.
So you moving the adoption of the resolution that was submitted to us as a packet to approve up to 29 million?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Okay, we have, and there's a second. Who seconds that?
Chris Moth.
Chris, okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions or discussion about the motion or questions to the proposal?
Sorry, just for the sake of expediency, Josh, could you help us understand, there's just increased blasting, but that I'm assuming the rocks aren't diamonds, right? But it's, I mean, $4 million, 16% roughly?
Yeah, so great question, Mr. Perry. So part of it too, we were trying to be conservative given the current scarcity of tax exempt bonds in Nashville. We wanted as many projects to be potentially approved as possible. and we were hoping we could come in under cost. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Part of that is the increased blasting, but also part of that as part of the rezoning that we received with the property. We are forced to widen the road as well as build out curb, gutter, and sidewalk and get the easements to build those. So that required dealing with landowners in Nashville who also feel like they're sitting on gold. And so that also led to the increased construction cost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, we'll call for the roll call vote. Sarah, please call the roll.
Mr. Bobby Perry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Dick Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Isaac Aday, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Shia Hendricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Becky Sharp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Chris Moth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Meyer, how do you vote?
Yes.
That is a 7-0 with it passing.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. We'll look forward to seeing you back when you come for final approval.
Thank you.
The next matter of business is Purpose Preparatory Academy is asking for an amendment to their previously issued bonds, I think to reduce interest rates. We've seen a number of these in the past. We have Russ Miller here today, I guess representing Purpose, I presume. But go ahead, Russ, cue in so you can give us the information.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Meyer. This is Russ Miller at Bass Berry. We were bond counsel for this bond issue originally. I guess I'll introduce the other people that are on the call here. Lagra Newman is on the call from Purpose Prep. She's the head of school there. Dale Mitchell is on the call. He is on the board and is the treasurer. Brooks Smith is actually counsel to Purpose Prep. He's at Bradley A-Ramp. He's on the call as well. And then Kathy Nelson from Pinnacle Bank is on the call, and Pinnacle Bank is the holder of these bonds. So as Chairman Meyer said, the purpose of this is to just an amendment to the existing bond that we issued, that this board issued in 2017. And what we're amending is to reduce the interest rate and extend the bank's holding period. So I'll give you a little bit of details about the 2017 bond, just as a reminder. The bond was issued and purchased by Pinnacle Bank at the time. Pinnacle still holds it. It was to finance the acquisition of the property where the school is currently located, which is in Metro Center, 220 Venture Circle. It financed the purchase of that property and then also some build out of the school. Project's been completed. The original par amount of the bonds was $2,720,000. It's amortizing sort of on a mortgage style amortization that commenced basically at the completion of their construction period. Currently, it's a little more than $2.5 million outstanding still. The actual final maturity of this bond is 2038, but as I mentioned, the bank has agreed to hold this bond for sort of certain periods, which was 5-year period. So their actual next put date is 2022, but they are agreeing to waive that put in connection with this amendment. So the next put will be 2027. So essentially, the bank is agreeing to hold this bond through 2027 at the rate. The current rate on this bond is a little more than 3.5%. They are amending it to reduce it to be determined based on the market when we actually get this closed, which should be soon. But it should be between 3 and 3.25%, probably around 3.15 or so, based on today's rates. That's sort of a summary of what we're asking for. Lagra, as I mentioned, is on the phone, can answer questions about the school or Mr. Mitchell as well.
Okay, thank you, Russ. I guess we, of course, went through, at the time, discussion and whatnot, of course, approving this bond. So this is a project already approved, constructed. They bought the property, did their additions to it. So basically, they're here asking for us to amend the document so that they can essentially reduce the interest rate. And as he mentioned, a little change in the terms of the holding of the bond, which will at least be till 2022, I think was the date.
It's actually till 2027.
2027. It was
Yeah.
2022, and now they're going to 2027, right?
Correct.
So we
Yeah.
know that they. Okay. So it's a fixed rate then. Is that correct?
Yeah, it will be fixed through that 2027 date.
Right. And what's the anticipation in terms of closing of? I don't know what it will take.
To close the amendment, I think as soon as we can, assuming the board approves the amendment, as soon as we can get signatures, I think we're ready to close the amendment.
Right. Okay. So you don't have a commitment yet as to the rate. Is it very dependent on on what closing date on some index or something or?
Yeah, that's right.
So it'll be fixed as of the day of closing, but I guess
that's right.
Yeah.
And if that formula as of today would produce, I think 3.16%. So, and their current rate is 3.57. So it's reducing it a fair amount.
What's the cost end up to do this? Or who pays the cost? I guess there's just basically attorney's fees and
yeah, that's right. Attorney's fees and the bank is not charging any sort of
application fee or
right.
All right. Questions from the board? Again, we have a resolution.
As we continue to think about charter schools, I had the thought, really, how do we equate these with the other revenue bonds that we issue? In other words, by construction, we're to be issuing bonds which are later paid back by revenue from, patients at hospitals, supposedly, or renters at a facility, or in this case of a charter school, these are our tax dollars that are ultimately paying this back. How do charter schools fall under this general notion of revenue bonds for us?
It would be similar, I guess, if you think about a private school. I guess they're making their payments based on tuition revenues that are received, and so from a charter school's perspective, from the bank's perspective, I guess they're looking at the credit the same way. Essentially, the revenues that the school receives through payments that are allocated to them by the state and Metro, I guess. That's essentially the revenues that they're looking at.
And so one concern I have, when we went through the exercise with Knowledge Academy, here we had a situation where the MNPS board would have preferred to shut down the school. And when we think about, another charter school, hopefully that won't come to pass, but if it does, aren't we sort of tying up our taxpayers with paying off this bond down the stretch? Certainly won't the state step in as they did with Knowledge Academy and say, sorry, taxpayers, you've got to keep the school open? Is that something we should have on our minds?
I'm not sure. I guess the bank is looking at this security based on revenues they've received, and they have a mortgage on the campus. So that's sort of the ultimate security that the bank is looking to, I guess. Whether or not the state would say remain open or not, I don't know.
I think Kathy Kathy, are you trying to unmute?
Sorry about that. Yes, I was going to say that would be, we do have collateral on the facility, and that's how we do view it, as Russ said. So it would be the bank's risk that we're taking, that those revenues don't continue.
Thanks, that makes sense. So the protection of the bondholders is with the property ultimately, and this shouldn't be an issue if the government wants to shut down the charter school. I'm going to keep watching those on these charter school deals because I just can't get my head around them, how they're good for the general community. But thanks for the answers. They're very good.
Welcome.
Further questions? Anyone wish to make a motion to approve this resolution that amends these documents?
So moved.
Okay, said Dr. Day.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second, it's Bobby Perry.
Okay, Bobby, thank you, sir. Any further discussion? If not, Sarah, please take the roll.
Certainly. Mr. Bobby Perry, how do you vote?
Bobby Perry votes yes.
Mr. Dick Brown, how do you vote? You're muted.
Dick Brown votes yes. Again.
Wonderful. Dr. Isaac Gaudet, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Shia Hendricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Becky Sharp, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Chris Smoth, how do you vote?
No.
Chairman Meyer, how do you vote?
Yes.
It's approved with a vote of 5-2.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, thank you, Russ. The next matter before us is a proposal from ECG Trinity LP, which is again another consideration for a interest rate reduction amendment. We have John Shepard available to speak to us. Can John be unmuted to speak to us?
This is Grace Evans. I'm also with Elmington Capital. John's on the line too, but I was going to speak to North Lights for Trinity. And it's not an interest rate reduction that we're here for. We're actually, we came before the board in December 2019 for the initial inducements, and we're here today just for our final bond issuer approval.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I was looking at the wrong.
No, that's no problem. Are we still next in line?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So talk about your project.
Okay, so we are, just for everyone who refresh your memories from December, we are building a new construction multifamily development site here in Nashville. This site is located on Old Matthews Road near West Trinity, and I think everyone's familiar with the area, but just reminder that this neighborhood was hit by the recent tornado, so need for housing in this neighborhood is even more exacerbated than when we were here asking for this in December. So our new construction development, we're looking to build 210 units. It'll be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. And as all of our developments that we come here with, all of our units are gonna have those upgraded appliance packages, walk-in closets, fitness center, laundry room, community room. We're big on all of those. And then all of the units will be rent and income restricted. So our financing, I'll just run through that really quick. We've already received our bond and tax credit commitment letters from THDA. We received those back in January, and we've already received our approval for a 10-year pilot from MDHA. We have a construction loan in line with Bank of America. We have our equity lined up as well with Redstone. And then our bond structure, we're looking at having that a $23 million Freddie TEL with a $4 million taxable tail on the back of that. So the total perm loan will be $27 million. And we're getting this through the Freddie TEL through Arcadia. And just with this final approval, we are ready and set to close. We're actually looking at closing the end of the month, that last week in May. And at that point, we'll be ready to start construction right away with the first units to be delivered in October 2021. And then finish that complete construction in December 2021. and we're here for questions. I also have John Shepard's online and Keith Dizelle with Baker Donaldson, who's our bond counsel.
I have a question. This is Becca Sharp. You may have reviewed this before, but how long does the affordability component stay in place for anybody who moves that prices go up based on anybody that they mentioned?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question. What was that?
I'll put it in the chat just so you can read it. That's okay.
Okay.
Grace, I think the question was how long do the affordability requirements remain in place?
Oh, it'll be 30-year affordability requirement. And that's like through THDA. It's holding us to that commitment.
Now, this is Steve Myers. Is Freddie Mac purchasing this bond? Is it what's happening, or I've got down?
Yes. So I don't know if you. Yes. Okay. So if you're familiar with our Robinson Flats development that we got approval for back in 2017, and that one's 100% complete too. It's the same structure as that one. It's out on like Robinson Road. It's that 209 unit senior development. So
yeah.
Okay, so the structure actually mimics that. So we'll be getting a Freddie forward commitment now, and then when we finish completion, we'll convert for Freddie, and Freddie will buy out the Bank of America piece, who's our construction lender.
Okay, well, I guess I'm just trying to see. Cindy, maybe you can explain this transaction of where our bonds, who purchases the bond? Or
Well, Bank of America is the initial construction lender, and so it's a direct placement with Bank of America. And then once the project's complete, Freddie Mac will be the permanent lender and will purchase the bond at that time.
Okay, so our funds are.
Go ahead.
Our funds are the bond being bought by Bank of America that'll use our funds or the funds from these bonds to make the construction loan, and then they'll exit and Freddie Mac will take over.
Yes, but the Freddie Mac commitment is being put in place now. So all the conditions for Freddie to buy the bond from Bank of America once construction is complete, those requirements are put in place now.
Right. Yeah, I understand. But
it's a direct purchase. Yes.
Okay. And Bank of America is not lending any money; they're buying the bond to use buying the bond, and we provide the proceeds, and they're going to use those proceeds for the bond to do the construction.
Correct. Bank of America is the construction lender and the bond holder during construction.
Right. That's fine. What kind of rate are we looking at here? Do we know?
We are looking at a LIBOR plus 259 bips with a floor of LIBOR at 75. And that's with the Freddie Mac enhancement. We're hoping to rate lock in the next week or two.
Okay. Again, we have a resolution that's presented here. Do I have a copy before us? I think this is final approval. Do we have a bond amount in here? I'm trying to look for.
It's not to exceed 23 million.
Not to exceed 23 million. Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to adopt such a resolution?
So moved.
And that was?
Chris Moth.
Chris has moved approval. Is there a second?
Robert Perry, second.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Second. Okay. Any further discussion or questions? If not, we'll take a roll call vote on the resolution. Sarah, please take the vote.
Mr. Bobby Perry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Dick Brown, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dr. Isaac Azay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Shia Hendricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Becky Sharp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Chris Moth, how do you vote? Mr. Moth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Chairman Meyer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Perfect. It is approved with a 7-0 vote.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. All right, the next matter before us is WCO Hobson, a limited partnership, asking for final approval of their housing project, which is 324 units on Hobson Pike. And I believe we have, John Shepard was also listed on this. Who's here? We have, who's speaking for this?
Grace Evans, same.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Grace.
Thank you. So for Hobson, we are building a new construction multifamily development site. It's on 21 acres here in Nashville. This one will be 324 units. Again, all those units will be rent and income restricted, and will be a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. It's spread across that big site. So it'll be 12 residential buildings plus a clubhouse plus a pool, along with those same amenities, fitness center, community room, etc. The big thing I want to point on this one is we are partnering with the nonprofit Woodbine. So they'll actually, a special purpose entity of Woodbine will be serving as the general partner. And then Elmington will be acting, we'll have an entity that'll service the special limited partner. We have worked with Woodbine on quite a few developments at this point. So they have just been an absolutely fabulous partner for us. So we're excited to partner again with them on this development here in Nashville. For our financing, again, we've already received our bond and tax credit commitment letters from THDA. We've already received approval for a 10-year pilot from MDHA. Construction equity are all in place. And we also were awarded a Barnes Fund grant for this one for just about $1.2 million. And then bond structure is going to be set up very similar to what we just talked through. So it'll be Freddie Tell with ENC. And for this one, we are planning to submit our commitment package to Freddie at the end of this week, actually, which would put us in a position to close around the middle of June. We're targeting June 12th. And at that point, we'll be ready to start construction immediately with the first units to be delivered January 2022, 100% completion in June 2022.
Did you say, this is Steve Meyer, did you say you're getting $1.2 million from the bond, from the
Barnes Fund? It's actually $1,195,000.
Okay. And is that just sort of lumped in with the rest of the funds that we're providing, or is it for a specific purpose, or is it just, how they arrive at that figure? And
it's separate. So yeah, the Barnes Fund, I think we had actually applied for a little bit more and they ended up running out for this one, but it's just to help, this is a really large site. So it's most of that money we're going to be using to help, off site or offload some of that additional site work that we're running into.
Is 324 units one of your larger developments, do you know?
It's on the larger size. We're actually doing some developments in Texas that would make this look very small. But we have others that are around this size as well.
And this is a large site, did you say? I mean.
Yes, it's 21 acres that we'll be developing on, and around the site there's other like multifamily, single family houses, etc.
Could be what? I'm sorry, what did you say?
So our site is Yeah, around the site, there's a lot of other like single family homes being developed as well. But just for what we're looking at, our 324 units are spread across 21 acres.
All vacant land right now.
There's some single family homes that are already going in, and then retail in the front. There's a lot of development happening over in this area.
No, but I mean, as far as your 21 acres, is vacant at the present time. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, our 21 acres is completely vacant, green space.
But there's other development around your site, is what you're saying, going on, single family
Right.
and
Yes.
and some commercial. Did you say?
There is some retail, but again, we're not what we're here for today. But yes.
And this is a similar deal with, instead of Bank of America, it's PNC Bank, and Freddie Mac will take out the permanent loan or buy out the bond when the construction is done.
Yes.
Any questions from the board members? We do have a resolution for this, up to $37 million on this project. This is for final approval. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution to approve this project?
Chris Moth, so moves.
Okay, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Dick Brown, second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further questions or discussion? Not hearing anyone wishing to speak, we'll call for a vote by roll call. Sarah, please record the vote.
Mr. Bobby Perry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Dick Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Isaac Aday, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Shia Hendricks, how do you vote? Oh, Shia, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Perfect. Ms. Becky Sharp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Chris Moth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Meyer, how do you vote?
Yes.
It is approved with a 7-0 vote.
All right, thank you, Sarah. All right, I think it concludes most of our regular business agenda. I'll ask Cindy if we have any old business or new business on there.
We do not.
Okay.
I have one little thing.
Okay.
I think this meeting, one of the good things coming out of the pandemic is that, we're now are recording our meetings and they're now open to the public. And I think that's wonderful for the transparency of what we do, and the taxpayers can see where the federal budget is, a tiny amount of it is going. And I would make a motion, and I'll withdraw it. I'll table it. We can talk more about it next time. That after this period, when we get back to regular meetings, my motion is that we continue to video record and archive the meetings for the public. I hope someone might second that.
I'd like to second that motion.
And
okay.
And I will move to table it right away. I'll think about that for next time.
Okay, we'll defer it then. We'll just say we'll defer it then until a later meeting. All right. And I don't think we have any information from our council, anything that needs to be shared.
Well, sorry. No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Can you forecast another meeting? Anything that's come to your attention that people expect to see applications or anything that you have any forecast on?
I have not been contacted by any new projects at this point. So we have some preliminary approvals on these housing matters that are pending. So we'll just see how those progress over the next few months.
Right. These two that we gave preliminary approval today, And do we have any others that are outstanding that still need final approval?
Yes, there's one other with the LDG group that had the 808 at Skyline from the December meeting that they are also submitting that application. So yes.
Okay. So I guess we don't know how fast THDA will work, I guess, to know whether these will be back before us in June or July, maybe.
THDA, once they award approval, it's typically 90 days to get your financing together and to get final approval and close. Because of the pandemic, THDA is giving everyone more time. So it could be a few months. It's hard to know.
Right. I guess it more depends on how quickly they can put the financing together, in a sense. Maybe it's more than THDA will, I don't know what their approval process will take, but so at this time, I guess we'll just have to wait till we get requests for another meeting. But thank everybody for their efforts to be present today. And I guess we'll know, and whether it's 30 days, whatever time period is, we'll see if we're open for meeting, fully come together for a meeting, or whether we'll have to use this process again. We'll certainly hear from Cindy and Sarah as to what the next meeting will look like. Again, thank you all for attending. Hope everyone is well and continues to stay well.
I'm going to wake Pete up.
Thanks, Dick. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody, take care.
I think we said we're adjourned. That's it. Okay.